I love that Matt is wearing his Camp HETMA shirt from InfoComm. The reason why HETMA went with the camp theme was because InfoComm is kind of reminiscent of a summer camp. It's great to get to make those connections so that the next time I do have something coming up, I can be like, hey, what are you doing? How are you making this happen?
For 1 week, taste the lights, taste the fame, Camp Campington Fun.
On this episode, we discuss InfoComm, acquisitions, and the road to 10K. All that and more on EdTech. EdTech episode 132, Community. Hello, AV friends, and welcome to another episode of EdTech. As always, we have our panel of awesome higher ed AV professionals. Ernie Bailey, hello.
Hello, Aaron. Glad to be back again.
And Rob Raspberry.
Hey, we're at it again.
And Scott Tyner.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And today's special guest joining us for this episode is Matt Kaminsky from the University of California at Berkeley. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much. Really happy and grateful to be here.
Yeah, so tell everyone a little bit about what you do over there at UC Berkeley.
Yeah, so I've been about 2 months right now in my new role. So working at the University of California, Berkeley, College of Data Science, Society, and Computing Science. It's a brand new college that's being built on campus. First college being built in 50 years. Major capital project. The building is about 375,000 square foot. And they will have a combination of either Zoom rooms, high flex spaces, and a lot of kind of AV over IP infrastructure out there. So more or less about 120 spaces. And I'll be running all AV and digital services there and event spaces as well. Before that, I've been on campus for about 11 years where I work for the School of Public Health. I was focusing more on operations, everything relevant to everything digital, whether it was basic AV support to broadcasting, and I kind of like doing the jack of all trade. I slowly moved into the School of Business when I work a little bit more on the soft skills, more focusing on the fundraising part of the house, I would say, in higher ed. And then I started at the School of Optometry for about 5 years when I pretty much revolutionized everything out there. It was more of a reactionary, I would say, behavior because COVID hit on my first week. And then everybody asked me, do you know anything about online education? I said, I know some flavors. So it's like trying to build the momentum out there where A, we were in a digital revolution prior to COVID regardless. B, in higher education and public sector, it's been very challenging for us to kind of catch up with the private sector. And C, because of COVID right now, you have to switch everything online. So obviously we're post-COVID right now, and we just celebrated a 5th year anniversary of this online education program that has been pretty sustainable at this point. And so very grateful for this opportunity. So I've been able to tell my story via different channels, whether it's through HETMA, LinkedIn, or other means like EduCause. I was able to trying to share my stories with others. So very empowering here. So that's kind of me in a nutshell right here.
That's fantastic. And you got to win some awards at the Higher Ed AV Awards, right?
Yes. Well, the main one being the Rising Star Award of the Year. I think I've been pretty grateful for that. And it was a little bit of two-sided. One end was really a testimonial of all the things that I've been able to push forward for about these past years. And the other one is to really find my people and find acknowledgement to saying, yes, it works. And yes, it's acknowledged industry-wide, but also in the higher education sector, whether it's public or private. So it's really like a truthful moment to me to saying, damn, it works. And so validation out there was very powerful. The other ones was more about the do more with less, right? So I have a strong partnership with Zoom and Logitech. And it was really important for me to tell my story to trying to have some other people kind of follow my path and not repeat the same mistakes. And I think it's going to kind of jump into the first articles that we're going to discuss a little bit further to finding your people, road to 10,000 members at HETMA and things like that. It's really to finding that community of practice that can really empower you to make a difference, even at the smallest scale possible.
I should have just had you host this show.
Oh, no. I'm usually in the shadows.
I mean, that was a fantastic segue because the first article that we read can be found on AV Buyers Club, and it was written by Scott Tyner. From Budgets to Breakthroughs, What Higher Ed Learned at InfoComm 2025. So what were the big higher ed takeaways from this InfoComm? I think Scott nailed it.
I think so too. And I really appreciate the kind of like tiered approach on like what you miss, what you didn't miss, but what was the big picture at the end of the day. It's not the swag, but more about the networking. You actually nailed that article. And this is why, I'm pretty happy to see a face on the article as well and be able to discuss with you a little bit about what has been seen and how things are kind of appearing in the industry. On my end, because I was jumping in a new role and trying to switch the culture already before the AV is installed, it was important for me to mingle with all those manufacturers and have some face-to-face time, even bringing other manufacturers together on the table to trying to make sure that whatever has been planned for that building is actually what is very critical to our mission. And this is where we're able to identify some synergies, but also some gaps. And so my presence at InfoComm was because I was speaking. So that's why I had to travel across this country instead of going to Vegas, which is much closer to me. But then also like approaching this collaboration approach in an inclusive manner, and also trying to kind of mingle with all my HETMA partners. So again, finding the people and the right collaboration. So a lot of things perspire from that, mainly the AV over IP kind of really taking off on my end, simplifying those kind of methodologies, scaling them as well. And then everything relevant to Zoom Room and Logitech, there is a lot of noise happening right there. They call themselves the silent killer. And it's pretty relevant, I would say. Again, it's doing more with less. And you have to be very creative and bold sometimes, especially when you are in a public institution like Berkeley, where revenue and I would say allocation in the budget can be a big challenge. So yeah, pretty good article so far.
I think so much of what you see at some of these sessions or conferences are whatever thing that you're currently most focused on or most thinking about or working about. And you tell, so I wrote that article, one of the things that we're really always focused on is security and privacy. And those have been some big issues that have come up in our region over the past few months. We had a hospital here that actually shut down for a month because of a ransomware attack. A major hospital in the middle of the central Maine, right? Shut down for a month. And so that's been on my mind. And so I think, and we see more and more, security is a part of AV. It's a field inside of AV as opposed to just a side thought at this point. And so I see almost every manufacturer talking about security and thinking about security, and I think that is that's really important, something we have to just constantly be thinking about.
Yeah, that was something that we were looking at too, and talked to many manufacturers about their security and networking, and how we're seeing a lot of the manufacturers that have been kind of behind catching up and really moving into the world of true IT as far as the networking and security side. And there were several good discussions during the HETMA Summit as well on security. And I think that is a big thing right now. I know it is for us. We had some security issues with a couple of AV devices getting real chatty last night. I got notices from our IT security team, what's going on with this? Should this device really be spending so much time talking outside campus? And the answer was no. And it's supposed to be on a subnet that can't. So you tell me why it can't. But security is the first thing that comes up. And, Scott mentioned the hospital that had to shut down. We're a teaching hospital and academic health science center. So multiple levels of security take place in every conversation that we have, whether it is HIPAA or FERPA or, looking out for ransomware or just having our devices communicate, just within our group and not being a gateway into the campus for any type of nefarious software.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I started at Drexel, there were maybe a couple people who dealt with security, and now it's a full department and multiple people, and security and keeping information safe is an extreme priority. And like you, Ernie, it's like we get the email saying, "Hey, this device, what's going on here?" Blah 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 blah. It's very very important. HIPAA, FERPA, all that stuff is extremely important. But what I also liked about the article, Scott, and even though I wasn't there this year, it just seems to span across the years, is that one of the most valuable things that you have at this point is networking. Networking with your peers, networking with people, exchanging information, finding out what other institutions are doing, what you're doing, how you can maybe work together, collaborate, make things better, experiment, test, all these kinds of things. To me, over the years, that's always been the most important. We love the tech. We love seeing all these things and the subjects and the sessions. But, networking with new people and new peers has always been just one of the most important things about going to InfoComm.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that Matt is wearing his Camp HETMA shirt from InfoComm. Absolutely perfect. And the reason why HETMA went with the camp theme was because InfoComm is kind of reminiscent of a summer camp when you're a kid and you go and you get to see all of those kids that maybe you don't normally go to school with. So you only really get to see them during, that 1 week or, time frame during the summer. And so it's like that theme just was like so perfect. And, we really, because it's about like the people and the community we're building, and it's so nice to get to meet new people who can be such valuable assets to your knowledge base. Because as much as I'd like to think I know everything, I absolutely don't, and it's great to get to make those connections so that the next time I do have something coming up, I can be like, "Hey, what are you doing? How are you making this happen?" And it's also that validation that Matt was talking about earlier too, that, not only am I like, I'm doing the right things, but also that other people are experiencing this too. Because even though we all work for different universities, we're going through similar things. And so having those connections where we can commiserate about, the good things and the not so good things sometimes is absolutely fantastic.
So for me, the technology in InfoComm that was most interesting is some of the software that's starting to come out. And there have been companies that have done similar things to this over the past, but this company called JetBuilt has a product called JetBot. I think I got those in the right order. That is essentially an AV technician in your phone. And there's some things I really love about it in the sense that it can be a user in a room, scans a QR code, and it starts to walk them through troubleshooting of the room, what's going on in the room. And it's using AI behind the scenes. You have loaded the design into the AI. You've loaded the product manuals into the AI for anything that's in that space. So whether it's a new technician who's still learning, or if it's an end user trying to do some troubleshooting on their own, I think that is a very huge step forward, and something that any of us will have to start using. I think it's a great way that people will continue to sell AV as a service. It's one of the big problems that there's always been with AV as a service is there somebody there to do troubleshooting? And this idea that I built that room, I can troubleshoot it best. But if I've got this tool right here that can tell me everything that's going on a moment's notice, And then, of course, I'd love to throw in, gosh, if you start adding, some AI glasses where it's actually pointing out stuff to you in the rack. I mean, we're getting there. We're getting to that point now that it's very, very exciting.
I think I saw something similar, Scott, which is Excite, and I know they've been there on the landscape for a little while right now, but they're starting to give a little push in the higher ed vertical. Obviously, it's a little bit about what you just mentioned, with the caveat of adding extra layers of centralized kind of access troubleshooting methodologies. And that AI bot is pretty solid, apparently. I was just playing with it the other day. You just give some prompt about what's going on in the room, and it will start to tell you which input misfires, what's going on, if you want to change the gain, and also kind of like give you direct advices from the manufacturer website into the bot directly. You can also, I think, tie different APIs and also leverage an internal ticketing system as well. It is something I'm seriously considering for that new building as well, and trying to have a better approach. And I wish I could show you my office right now, but I printed the logo and it's pretty much saying like less of this, more of this. So the less of this is like a person running, and more of this, which is more like a computer side job where you are adapting a more, I would say, less reactionary method in your customer service to empower those people that are really troubleshooting the things with the tech. And so I think Excite, or I think it's like CloudXIO with Crashon and all like these places, Logitech Sync and things like that, everything being centralized to one platform is so powerful. Although it's kind of double dipping on the price, but I can also see the value to have everything in one place, where it's pretty much like the headquarters of operations. And when you mention, IT, FERPA, HIPAA, and all this stuff, we're actually looking at the risk assessment of Excite, and how we can integrate that within campus as well, to making sure that we actually disrupt the disruptors, right? So less intrusion in our network, making sure that our subnet are pretty secured, and then we keep tied like our AV or IP very separate from our network. So we know exactly where those chit chatters are, and we can shut them down immediately.
It seems like we're finally getting close to that single pane of glass type thing that everyone's been dreaming of for years, to put all of the tools kind of in one place. And maybe we're getting there almost.
I think so, yeah. And that was truly an opportunity for me to have like a testimonial on the building, and fresh from all this experience I've had over the years with this brand new kind of building being built. It was an opportunity for me, even though I'm arriving very late in the project, to challenge the integrators and the designers to making sure that in 2 years from now, we will still be ahead compared to other institutions in either Berkeley or higher education in general. Being in computing science, data science, and society, it's truly like a leverage of all those big words like AI, computing science, and all these mechanisms that work in the background for you, right? And really empower you to think differently. So this is where right now I'm trying to be a big advocate for that, to set the standards either for our public institution or any other institution that are trying to look at doing the same thing in the long or short term.
The next piece is from AV Magazine at avinteractive.com. Why a wave of acquisitions shows that AV is growing up. So what does this rash of mergers and acquisitions mean for us higher ed tech managers?
In looking at this article, it sort of is an interesting evolution or history of it, where other companies used to take over other companies just to get them out of business. Okay, you have something, so you grab more of a market share, this kind of thing. And basically what this is saying, and you can see it happening, is now companies are acquiring other companies to help better equip what they're offering to the customer. Maybe a Crestron doing a One Beyond, not to get One Beyond out of business, but because they see, they saw, the possibility of using the motion tracking and adding things into different infrastructures. So I think what the Netgear gentleman is talking about is acquiring smarter, allowing your infrastructure to be better able and strengthen and offer and deliver what the customer wants, versus, we're trying to get rid of the competition. That's sort of the general gist I got out of it. I'm sure we can dive a little deeper into it, but that's what I got.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's like piecemealing and trying to add things and saying, we can almost do it better with your product.
Yeah, and I think what we discussed a little bit earlier, as we're seeing our products mature, if you will, into the bigger world of IT. Some of these mergers can give them the pocketbooks they need to be able to do that and bring in some outside thinking. The AV side of our products work great, but making them talk to each other from other manufacturers or letting them talk on the network, let them get out, let us manage them remotely and everything is still maybe not in its infancy, but still at the toddler level, if you will. It's got some growing to do. We're starting to see some advancement, and I think some of these acquisitions by venture capital companies and big finance companies, not one AV company taking over another, but some outside business people coming in and not getting rid of the AV engineers that founded the company and got it going, but empowering them to grow their product. And that's what I'm hoping we're going to see more of.
Yeah, I actually love reading articles like this. I love thinking about the business of the industry and why people are doing certain things. And I think Ernie, you're right. I think it does represent a maturing of the industry that this is happening, because it happens in all industries as they mature. It sometimes scares me a little bit in the sense that we were just talking about Excite or JetBot, right? So we could easily imagine one of these two big companies, Crestron or Extron, saying, our engineers are engineers. They're not necessarily great at this design and customer service piece. So let's go buy that. We can buy it cheaper than we can bring on people and try to train it. Well, then that goes a little bit away from what I wanted, which is that single pane of glass through which we can see multiple manufacturers. I think, and there's also most people, for right or wrong, shudder when they hear about private equity and private equity buying things up, because there's one reason they do it, and that is to make money. And you think of some of the legends in AV, Edwards over at Extron and Finkelstein from Crestron. These are people who genuinely cared about the product and what they were delivering and what they did. Made a lot of money in the process, but that didn't start out, you think, as their goal. And that's not the same with private equity and the like sometimes. So I get a little nervous about it, even though it's fun to read about and think about.
Yeah.
Well, there is also another factor, right, which is pretty much the Zoom Room three-factor or SaaS or, software as a service, where now there is so much more that can be done with less again. And this is where I really shine in that kind of industry, where you kind of disrupt positively and you kind of nudge people around. And this is where all of a sudden I don't need an engineer or designer and things like that. I can literally have a plug and play device that is run by Android up to supporting Android 15 right now, I suppose. And really be empowered upfront to have this being done. As a customer, I think that this is very powerful, because all of a sudden I don't really need to look into those certification or CTI, CTS certification or QC's trainings and things like that. Those joint acquisitions, I think, are kind of like a dual blade. The first one, I think, yes, indeed, is the maturity of the industry, trying to understand something is more critical in the mission orientation side. And that's what we're saying about Excite and the other, I think it's Chatbot, you said the name. And then on the other side, it's really disrupting with what's coming up. When you look at Zoom, they come up with software updates almost every 2 weeks or every week. So keeping up with this kind of momentum is a bit more challenging with those like strong monopolized manufacturers. And so this is where, I would like to see it a bit more in there. So I think Cloud XIO, for example, and NAV or IP protocols that are being normalized in a way. QCS is disrupting seriously the industry as well out there. And so those Extron as well, looking into that. But all of a sudden, you're starting to have smaller kind of entities being formed and perhaps merged with those big ones because they're doing something cool that really, truly make a difference at the end of the day. But yeah, Logitech and Zoom as well, it's just a big disruptor in the industry right now. So those acquisitions make sense at the moment. I totally feel that.
Yeah, the private equity acquisitions are the ones that scare me because I'm thinking of like what Michaels is going through currently, and or Joann Fabrics, that's the one, where they were bought by a private equity firm and now they are closing, and it's not necessarily because they're not making money. It's just, I guess, not the business for them or something. But so it's just those types of things scare me when they, if suddenly AV isn't the cool thing, that suddenly they're like, all right, we'll just dump that. And then who knows where the company ends up. But there was a quote in there that I found very interesting, that mergers and acquisitions provide a fast track to new technologies, untapped verticals like higher education, and regional markets where organic expansion would require years to establish meaningful presence. So I found that kind of an interesting quote because I hadn't really thought about that I guess there are some companies that have already gotten their roots into higher ed already. So it's almost easier for a company to purchase another one purely for that type of contact already, so they don't have to develop their own set of higher ed contacts. They're almost getting into those areas and finding out what their needs and wants instantly, as opposed to having to do all that development themselves. That was definitely not an angle that I had ever thought of when it came to the this topic.
One of the things that, as far as some of these mergers go, that kind of bothers me is when one company seems to be buying up all of their competition or all of the maybe side products and bringing them all into one. We're seeing less diversity, and I think we can see less growth in some of the areas if one company is controlling all of it. And we've seen that a little bit over the last few years. Just before COVID hit, that's our dividing timeline for everything in our world. But I remember talking to someone on the show floor one time that in 5 years we're going to come out here. There's going to be 3 or 4 booths. It's going to be the same size show, but everybody was buying everybody else out at that point, and we're seeing some new names out there, which kind of excites me, seeing some new people coming in and bringing in some different ideas. And I like seeing that. And those are the ones that I want to see these private venture groups getting behind and saying, hey, we can help you grow. You seem to know your end of the business. We know the business end that can come in and help you with that. And I think if we see more of that, we will see even more maturing of our industry. And at the same time, seeing some new developments.
The new definition of BC before COVID.
Yes. I was about to say that too, but I held it. And thank you, Erin. You brought it. It just came like Jesus Christ and COVID. Good job.
Right. They're the timeline, like significant points apparently now. Well, okay, let us move on to the next article. So this last one comes to us on Higher Ed AV Media. Breaking news, HETMA announces road to 10K. So hopefully everybody, if you haven't checked out that press conference, you at least had heard about it. So what does this sort of movement, what does the road to 10K mean for the higher ed community?
So I wasn't at InfoComm, so I had a bit of a different, look at this. And it's sort of funny. Here's a little joke. When I first saw the headline, I'm going, what, they're doing 10K resolution already? No, but I was just kidding. So there's a little history lesson here. I don't know, going back, and Ernie and Scott, you may remember this, but there were two conferences, EduComm and InfoComm, that would happen basically parallel to each other. And then EduComm sort of morphed into EduCause. And then there came EDTech, which was the conference that was focused on higher education business practices and stuff like that. But when InfoComm sort of evolved, then higher ed sort of lost the spotlight, so to speak. I'm just going to say it. Obviously, the market share, the amount of money that's spent is much higher in corporate side. But what this means, I think, is that with HETMA, being able to gain more members and do regional events, this is putting higher ed in getting better leverage, making more importance. And you're seeing that over the years. It's like HETMA got in there. Now you're an integral part, basically. It seems like InfoComm, you're there, you're in it. And now it's evolved into a big organization unto itself, which is wonderful, where we are the focus. Higher ed is the focus, and having resources and events and things that will help benefit us, I think, is fantastic. So getting that word out, and do as much as we can to help out and get to that number.
I love that. Well, and of course, I have a personal attachment to it, being that I'm the one who kicked off the press conference when the Road to 10K plan was announced. But it's very exciting to spend a year essentially focusing on not only pillars to build the organization, but also then member-centered pillars, so that it gives people some things to work towards personally, to not just make it all about the organization itself, but to try to lift up all of the members also.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super exciting and congratulations to you for launching it. I think we talked earlier about networking, and to me, that is this huge piece. And as long as it continues to pull people together and give people resources, I mean, I often think how fortunate we are that probably any one of us are like, I can probably find somebody at any region in this country, maybe any college in this country, and reach out to them if I have a question about something, and they'll answer, which is on the IT side. That's not always the same thing. You don't get that same response, and so really supporting that community, I think, is huge.
I can piggyback on that, Scott. And you talk about nationwide. I will bump it up a notch to say globally right now, right? I think there is such a relevant momentum that we have built and can keep going on trying to reach out to different regions and again share best practices and having this kind of like mentor-mentee relationship that I've been seeking desperately for years. And again, for the sake of equity and inclusion, there is no small and big fish in the sea. We're all swimming out there. It's all about finding the current and surfing on that wave. BC versus post-COVID, we don't care. I think the momentum is pretty in our advantage right now. And having this kind of peer-to-peer collaboration happening, those roadshow being happening also aside from those big conference, right? Rob, you mentioned the fact that you couldn't attend InfoComm. Well, guess what? One of those roadshow is probably less than 2 to 3 hour flight, and maybe can be able to have justification to fly or get a grant awarded to you to come see us and mingle with us and also be empowered to see what's going on in the industry. I think it's a big family. And again, I keep citing that since I came back from InfoComm, but during the award ceremony where Mike Peterson was getting his Lifetime Achievement Award, saying that I found my people was really resonating with me as well. And, you're not alone out there. Everybody's going through the same stories, and navigating those kind of things where you have people that are able to demonstrate growth. I've learned from each other and not repeating the same mistake. I think it's really what's the true catalyst is with HETMA, along with all the fun stuff that are going along with it, such as the Golf Classic and the fundraising portion that is happening with our Prism Scholarship as well. So I'm super stoked to be part of this. And I'm probably going to be committed before and after my retirement, that's for sure. So more to come on that end. I love the idea.
Absolutely. And one of the wonderful things about HETMA is that it is a free organization to join for our higher ed friends, because we know that a lot of times it's difficult to fit memberships into our budget. So this eliminates that barrier completely and opens it for anybody to be able to participate and join, no matter the size of your school. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been another fantastic episode. I appreciate all of your input and comments. This has been awesome. So if someone wanted to reach out after this episode airs, how might they get in touch with you, Matt?
I mean, I'm always have my phone in my pocket. You will see I'm very reactive. If I don't respond, I'm either sleeping or on vacation. So
Or on a podcast.
That's right. Well, yeah, we're going to have to make it a habit now. Yes. Public speaking is a pet peeve of mine where I need to start working on it. Anyways, LinkedIn is going to probably be the best way. Matt Kaminski. You can easily find me out there. Also, I'm learning the rope about the new HETMA app and the new channels change on the names. So I'm getting a good hand on that. Otherwise, via email, you can easily find me on the Berkeley website, Matthew Kaminski, and letters for the school is CDSS. And I'm looking forward to hear back from you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And how about you, Ernie?
LinkedIn's always a good way to get a hold of me.
And Rob?
LinkedIn.
And how about you, Scott?
I am on X on occasion. I'm definitely on LinkedIn, and you can find me over at Rave Pubs with some columns every now and again.
Wonderful. And as for me, you can find me on LinkedIn, on X at Smearin_off_ice, on the HETMA community, and each month here on AVNation's EdTech podcast that can be found on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find other AVNation podcasts like Women in AV, AV Career Mastermind, State of Control, and more. See you next time.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.
Hi, this is Jennifer Goodyear
and Erica Carroll
from the Women in AV podcast, where we are encouraged by the incredible stories of women in AV.
Listen in on fun, empowering conversations as we chat with inspiring women, breaking barriers and creating their own path in the industry.
Check out Women in AV on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.